Hey everybody. How's everybody doing? Are you guys excited? I guarantee you are not as excited as I am. This summer, I had this amazing opportunity. There's a Cinematheque in Serbia, and they said we really want to do a collaboration with Fantastic Fest. They are restoring all these really cool exploitation films that I have never seen before. They're messed up. So, I got to go to Serbia, never been. Has anyone been to Serbia?
Serbia! Hell yeah!
There you go. So I spent a week there. It was really amazing. Checked out Prince, but then there were some issues with visa process. They couldn't come. The collaboration fell through. They were really sad. They felt like they had wasted our time. I told them, no, of course, we're happy to build this relationship. But, they were gracious enough to give me a gift as just a token of appreciation. That fell through. So I have this gift to show y'all.
Open it!
We got the new Hellraiser! Director David Bruckner is here!
Wow. We made a fucking Hellraiser movie, guys. Never ever thought that would happen. It was always 2 years working on this film. It was always our intention, our hope, our dream to premiere it here for this audience. This is the world premiere. Nobody's seen this. Nobody's seen the finished film. You're the first audience. You're also some of the only few that will ever see it in a theater as the movie gods intended. So we're glad it can be here tonight. Look, I mean, as a director of horror, it has been a real honor and an adventure to jump into the mind of Clive Barker and bring this movie to life. We really followed our passions with this and lost ourselves a little bit. So I hope you enjoy. I have to shout out to some of our people, our incredible screenwriters, Ben Collins and Luke Piotrowski. And my old pal, Ben Lovett, our composer, is here as well. And also, I would love to introduce our priest, Her Majesty, the amazing Jamie Clayton is here tonight.
Hi. Oh my God, we're so nervous for everyone to see this. I'm so excited that you get to see it on a big screen. I don't know what else to say other than, I guess it's time.
All right, let's do this.
Yeah, and thank you to our friends at Hulu. This is going to be debuting exclusively on October 7th. But as they said, y'all are the first people to see this. So, and it's good. Really, really fucking good. Hey everybody. Let's welcome back the cast and crew of Hellraiser. Come on down. Yes, keep applaud them, please. They have a long descent. They made a good Hellraiser, a really good Hellraiser. Thank you. Another big round of applause. All right, David, you brought some friends with you.
So this is Ben Lovett, our composer. And this is Luke Piotrowski and Ben Collins, our wonderful screenwriter. And you all know Jamie Clayton.
I just have to say that the Hellraiser franchise is my personal favorite franchise. So, you know, when I heard they were making a new one, I was so excited. And then, David, when I heard you were attached, I was really excited because we all love your films. And so we knew it was in good hands. And then when we saw Jamie was cast, I was like on the ground excited. So do you want to talk about how you got involved? This must be a dream project for a horror director.
Yeah, I mean, I never imagined I'd get to make a Hellraiser movie, and we worked on Ben and Luke and Ben and myself all worked on a movie called The Night House, and for the year and a half of my life that was The Night House, Ben and Luke never told me that it was loosely based on a Hellraiser pitch that they had made back in 2012. And of course, the themes throughout were certainly relevant in so many ways, and it started to come out when the movie was done, and I was like, that makes perfect fucking sense. And so, and at the time, David Goyer had written a treatment for Spyglass for Hellraiser, and they had come on and done a draft. And so I got the call, jumped on April 2020, and we just dug into it. And it's been Hellraiser since then. Yeah.
Awesome. Jamie, taking on this iconic character, I imagine it must have been a little nerve-wracking. Horror fans are pretty vocal. Sometimes, a little too vocal. I really feel like you made the character your own. You can't compete with the original, so you just totally reinvented it. Do you want to talk about how that process was coming onto it, how you developed your own character?
Thank you. I mean, it was really David and I, just lots of conversations we had, over Zoom while we were in Serbia, and even during the casting process, once I got the role, he was just so generous with the ideas that he had and his dreams and hopes and desires for what this version of the priest would be. And then once we got to Serbia and I did my first screen test, and I got to feel it out and really, just sort of the suffocation and the beauty of everything that it was. And then we talked about like the hunger and the desire, and and it's all there in the beautiful words. And so and then there were moments when the first couple times I was filming, I remember when you would just run up to me and be like, that's it, that you found her, it's working. and I was like, oh, okay, let's do that more. And so then it just sort of, it just happened in this beautiful, organic way, like through the creative process. It was a fucking dream come true. It was so much fun for me, and such a fucking challenge, and so exhausting, and mentally challenging and physically challenging, and a couple of panic attacks. But yes, I hope you like it.
It's a lot of prosthetics to wear and not freak out.
Yeah.
Like, that's something that had people lose their minds. They start tearing the suits off. But I just want to add also that from the get-go, I was just, how do you reproduce Doug Bradley? It can't be done. And that's so much of what Hellraiser has always been to all of us. And so from the get-go, Jamie just understood that I think this had to be her own thing. And so I didn't know how we were going to do that until I saw her working with the words. And then from that moment forward, it was like, okay, there's an avenue here, there's a path, and it's different. It's, it's sensual, it's sultry, it's curious, it's revealing of the priest's desires, and I felt like that was something I hadn't seen before, and that's what we ran with.
Well, it really worked. And I think a huge part of that was you changed up the costuming, and you really made the priest look very different. Do you want to talk about the thought process behind that and who was involved?
Yeah, that was a big call. The feeling was, and look, it's very popular right now to reproduce the things we love from our youth in a very exacting fashion. But for me, I just couldn't help but imagine what it must have been in like '87 to see Cenobites for the first time. Go, what in the living hell am I looking at? Like, no one has ever done anything like this before. And in exploring that, we just felt like our attitudes on, that direct of a BDSM reference had kind of changed. Black leather in particular, and that entire subculture, something that is not quite as transgressive as it was in the 80s. It's now something that's pretty above board. We can talk about it. It's a culture that's high in communication. My mom's reading 50 Shades. Like, it's just a different time, and we felt like, the question was just how do we do something that captures that unpredictability and that inventiveness, but still feels very Hellraiser. And we had an idea, and it really came out of conversations with Ben and Luke in the development process of just talking about how, if we had no limitations, if Cenobites could pursue all of their delights and not necessarily be tethered to a kind of earthly subculture, like where would that take us? And we started thinking about extreme body mod. We started thinking about what we could do with modern day resources necessarily and how we could advance it. And we stumbled upon this idea of like, what if they were their own leather? What is leather but a representation of flesh and skin? And once that idea stuck, we just thought this is limitless. Like there's a path forward here. And so it was quite a learning experience to design that, something that I've never seen before, and an even bigger learning experience to create it and bring it to life. But that's how we got there. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, I don't want to hog all the questions. We are simulcast, so I will repeat the audience question, and then y'all can answer. Who wants to ask the first question? Right there.
I thought Clive Barker was the producer on the project. How much input did he have on the stuff?
Clive has been...
Sorry, Clive Barker was a producer. How much input did he have on the finished product?
Yes. So Clive came on when we were in prep. I was in Serbia at the time, and we started to talk on the phone for certain periods almost every night. And he was wonderful and generous. He always greeted us knowing that this was going to be a reinvention. This was going to be something different. Our first conversation before he really knew what work had been done was, you can't try to emulate this. Like, it can't be done. And how are you going to get around this? And I showed him the designs. I showed him the path we were on. And he welcomed it as a departure and really played the role of a great collaborator, creative producer. And so he'd send me imagery. He would think of things in the middle of the night, call me, and we would engage on all things. And when the movie was done, he saw several cuts and weighed in. And he obviously understands the material better than anybody, and would often find what he referred to as shared obsessions between ways he understood it, the ways we were processing it, and how it was emerging into different things. And some of my favorite nights were we would talk about Hellbound Heart, which was an inspiration to us in many ways, and we would find passages in that and find common ground where themes emerged that were the same with what he was doing and where we were going. But I'm grateful for his time, and he's been really supportive this whole time. So yeah.
You mentioned Hellbound Heart. This is for the writers. Y'all really dove into the lore, and there's, do you want to talk about creating the script and what other projects you referenced, past Hellraiser books, comics? It's,
Well,
the big one.
we read everything and watched everything. I read Hellbound Heart. I read Scarlet Gospels. We watched all the Hellraiser movies. I broke out the comic books, which has a lot of great and really cool stuff. Peter Atkins wrote on there. Lana Wachowski wrote some stuff for there. Neil Gaiman, lots of really cool people did lots of really cool stuff. So the bar was really high, and I don't think we were too concerned with necessarily mining canon, because the canon that exists is so contradictory, but it was about sort of taking and being inspired by that vibe and that feeling that all those things gave you. I also just reading a lot of Clive Barker on my end of going Damnation Game and Weave World and all those sorts of things. I was really just trying to get into that very Baroque horror mindset of something that felt very sort of pulpy and visceral, but also very sort of poetic and, hopefully kind of beautiful and, having something to say, especially just getting to write pinhead lines, like we in the very first drafts, it ended up getting taken out, but we put all of the pinhead lines in bold print because we wanted to really know that this line has got to hit, this is important whenever that character opens their mouth. It's like, you gotta listen. So I don't know, do you have anything to add?
I think it was everything Luke said, but also just connecting to, like, I guess the kind of wonder that you had the first time you saw. I mean, I have a very vivid memory of the first time I saw the cover of the VHS box, and like it was in a Toys R Us, and I think some teenager obviously put it too low for me. I was 5, so I don't know why it would ever be that, But it was the kind of miraculous, terrifying thing to see, and I think like wanting to believe that there was just like audiences that maybe had not imagined some of these things, and that maybe we could sort of illuminate some of what we'd always wanted Hellraiser to be in some undefinable sense. I think that was kind of for everybody in a way, but that was I think that was the hope.
All right, another
Where
question.
the hell did you live that they had Hellraiser at the Toys R Us?
Wow.
Figures.
Yes, right there. Any thoughts on what the resurrection would look like had she chosen that?
In my mind, it would look something like Frank from the original Hellraiser.
Right, which there is a glimpse of that down in the bowels of the dungeon when Riley is kind of dreaming about her brother.
Another question? Yes, right there.
For the writers, when you were here at the festival for Super Dark Times, did you ever think that you would be adapting Hellraiser?
Do you have an answer?
Well, we were not, so Kevin was here, I think, that year, so we've never actually been, this is our first time, by the way. We've never been to Austin before, so at that point, but to answer your question more specifically, yeah, we're incredibly happy to be here, but I think, no. I mean, at that point, we would have dreamed of it. I mean, the first meeting we ever had about it was 2012, back when Dimension Films was still gripping the rights with the, do it. I don't know, I shouldn't talk shit, but like, yeah, I mean, we pitched to them and they didn't want to do it, and then they called us a year later and asked us to pitch again, and they didn't want to do it, and over the years, different people thought they had the rights and asked us to do it, and we didn't trust them, so it was a long time of wanting it, and I think at that point, because that would have premiered in 2017, I mean, I think we'd given up all hope pretty much, right? You tell me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's right. I mean, so I guess it was a dream that we had because we had tried to come up with ideas and had talked about it. And there actually, because there's all these different things with the rights and different people said they had them, and so we actually met with, some people that wanted to do a version of it, and we were so pumped, and it was like, yeah, but it's gonna be like teens, and like, do we need to have, all this sex and violence and stuff, and like, maybe we could make it, and when they referred to like, the author, and I was like, do you mean Clive Barker? And like, you could call him Clive, like, don't say the author. And so at that point we actually said, we're not even gonna engage anymore, and it was a really hard decision because we were nobodies, and it was like, somebody wants to talk to us about Hellraiser, and it was like, yeah, but not these people. So when Phantom 4, had this treatment and stuff, it was like, let's see the treatment, let's make sure, okay, yes, this, we can party with this, so yeah.
All right, I have to ask about the soundtrack because the music is so good. It just creates this crazy atmosphere.
Thank you.
Yeah, tell us about, composing the amazing soundtrack.
Well, it's a hard act to follow because, as most of you know, like, the score to the original Hellraiser is like one of the most famous pieces of music in the genre. And, the original Christopher Young scores to the first couple of films sort of established the sonic terrain of these films and established like the identity of the music being something really signature and very distinct. It's very lyrical, it's very melodic, it's very sort of like this gothic romanticism about it. And I think that that was something that very early that we knew we wanted to channel if not just the spirit and the characteristics of that into what we were doing, but to try and pull in some of those original melodies from the original film. It just didn't, to David and I, just wouldn't feel right to not attempt to do that. So it took a lot of hard work and some arm wrestling and teeth pulling and stuff, but we managed to get some of that in, I'm sure, as you could hear, and we wanted to do it justice. We were really fortunate that we had Mr. Young's blessing to bring these and re-record and reinterpret, so nothing even exists in the original form that it did in the old films. We sort of did our own arrangements, our own recordings, and we're very, very happy that we had a chance to do that. But it was also important that we met that with sort of, much to like what Jamie did with the characters and what they did, is to meet that with like a new sound. Because while he, I think, established what that world sounds like, we were, you know, the thesis of the whole project was reinterpreting this material. So we wanted to sort of pay homage to that, but then also introduce a new sound that could also describe that world.
It worked really well. Loved it. Another question or two. We have time for maybe one or two more. Yes, right there.
I think for Jamie, I was so delighted to hear that you were on this project, but it's such a dynamic difference from the roles that I've seen you in prior to this. So I'm just curious what your relationship with like horror and genre was like prior to being on this role.
So, Jamie, this role is quite a departure for you. What is your relationship with horror films and genre films?
Thank you. That's great. Listen, when I started my acting career, like a little over a decade ago, the one goal that I had was to play all kinds of different roles. I just wanted the opportunity to audition for all different kinds of things. And because someone who's trans, I'm just not allowed in the room because I'm just pigeonholed into only doing certain things. And so when they decided that they wanted to cast a woman in this role and the audition came, I never thought I would get it, first of all. But I thought, I mean, I have great friends who reminded me, this is something that you've always wanted. Like, this is so, you know, like a hacker, a you know, sober bartender, and now the priest in Hellraiser. It's like, what is she gonna do next? But I was just so grateful for the opportunity, and I just honestly, when I auditioned, I never think that I didn't think I was going to get it, and so it was just a really fun audition. And I think that that's one of the things I just let go, and then I got a call back, and I was like, oh, really? Okay. And then we had so much fun in the callback, and David was so amazing. I remember telling my manager after that hour-long callback, which never happens, I was like, I want to work with this director no matter what it is. If it's not this, I want to work with him. And then I got it. I was like, oh fuck, okay. But I just wanted to play all different kinds of roles, and you know, luckily they were willing to open up the casting to all different kinds of women for this part, and I got to audition, and I got it because I'm good. Yeah, so you know, goal achieved.
Good job, David. Nice choice. She's fucking good. All right, I think we have one more question. Yes, right there.
You probably heard how stoked we were when Chatterer came on screen. How did you decide who to bring back, or were there Cenobites that you were like, we would love to do this and there's no room, or anything like that, or just personal favorites?
So how did you decide which Cenobites to bring back? Personal favorites?
I don't really know. Yeah, no. I mean, Chatterer was always something we wanted to do. Yeah.
I mean, if you're asking why Butterball's not in the movie, no one likes him enough. I'm sorry. I mean,
Apologies to Butterball fans.
No one asked. I mean, it was.
I think that was straight from Goyer. Like, not to throw the Goyer under the bus, but I remember early conversations like, you know, which ones he liked, which ones he didn't like. I know my favorite is we call her the Gasp. The female Cenobite. We gave her a name. Yeah. Yeah, she's my favorite, and we knew we had to have Chatterer. Chatterer's, you know, the favorite, so we knew that, and I think Goyer had a couple of just names thrown out in the treatment of like the Weeper. There was something called the Locust. No descriptions of what they looked like.
Yeah, we just had to imagine that and kind of just go, well, is that a good idea? But you know,
But I will say my pride and joy of the whole movie is the Asphyx, which was, you know, I remember when we got the job driving the way home. The Asphyx is the one with the he's the you know, the what do you call it? What do you
It's like the breathing, the call over the face where the wheezing and
autoerotic asphyxiation is what, I'm looking for there. Yeah. Yeah, the idea of, just thinking of, well, how do we make new Cenobites? What are new types of pain? What are new types of sort of eroticized pain that we can play with, and different things that we can do beyond just sticking something sharp into somebody? And so the idea of this, guy that's got a foreskin over his face all the time and struggling to breathe was like, yeah, that feels right. That feels on brand. So I'm really glad that one was, got it on screen.
That's the figurine I want on my desk. So I don't know if anyone from Spyglass or Hulu's here, but I think.
I will say the Weeper, whose arm split originally, there's also these kind of incisions in her torso. And so we storyboarded out and actually built a Weeper that split all the way down, so that she was actually a quadruped with like a torso shrine with a head on top. And this whole like Riley interaction that was going to happen out on the terrace, and unfortunately we ran out of days. There was no way.
The sadness
no
in
way
Dave's
the Weeper
voice.
conversation was
Dave's
going to
like,
happen.
we can't do the quadruped Weeper, guys. I'm so sorry. It's like, I'm gonna get it,
Out of time, out of money. Yeah.
Well, the Cenobites are so good. They're so scary. The design is so good. They're not comedic by, Unfortunately, some have been comedic in the past, not on purpose. Yeah, why don't you bring back Sea Player Somebody? That's my favorite. All right, one more. Yes, right there.
Well, let's follow up with the kills. How did you decide the severity of how kills each character died?
Okay, so how did you decide the severity of how each character died?
Well, the box gave us opportunities to bring 5 poor souls, 6 configurations, 5 poor souls. I'm just a big believer that you can over inundate the audience where some of that imagery is concerned, and so that if we hit it too hard out the gate, that like we kind of have nowhere to go in some ways. And so we sort of talked quite a bit about how far we could go. Some of it's also just the limitations of filmmaking. You only have so many days, and gags are hard and time consuming, especially when you're doing it prac. But we sort of found this balance where the movie might play a little bit coy until you get to Nora. And the conversation with Nora was always, here's the moment where the movie just needs to like take another register suddenly with what it's able to do. And so we put a lot of energy into what that was. There was a different character there for a while that took the Nora kill, and ultimately we landed on Nora and brought Aoife in to do it, and just knew that it was going to be this huge physical set piece that was going to really, really drive home just sort of the thread of the movie and how far it was able and willing to go. And from that point forward, it was just as much mayhem as we could bear to get on screen, as we could muster.
Well, we really hope that y'all get to make another one. I'm just putting it out there, in case anyone's listening, right? And thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited you were the first people that got to see this, and huge round of applause.